Rainbow Six Siege has a serious problem with operator balancing. So as you all probably know by now, the mid-season patch from Operation New Blood just went live a few days ago, and there were a lot of interesting changes that came with it. Just for reference, they sort of half buffed and half nerfed Melusi and Echo, they fully buffed Ela and Gridlock, and then they nerfed Azami, Buck, and Wamai. If you want to check out what they did specifically with each of these operators in terms of balancing, check out my video from a few days ago. But yeah, overall, I think Ubisoft is taking the wrong approach to these operator balances because they're constantly concerned with this side of the graph. You know, they're concerned with the overpick too strong side rather than the underpick too weak side. They typically wait until an operator becomes too strong with the current meta, they give them a big nerf like how we just saw with Wamai and Melusi, and then players find a new operator to overplay until the cycle continues. Now I know they gave a couple of buffs to underpicked operators like Echo and Ela, but rather than them doing this whole ring around the rosy with Wamai and the ACOGs and so on and so forth, they should just be giving buffs to the weaker operators. I mean, like, Ubisoft is constantly talking about getting rid of the whole meta no matter what it is, right? Like, they outright said on the designer's notes that they're taking away Melusi's ACOG just to incentivize people to play her for her gadget rather than her gun's loadout. So getting rid of any meta is obviously something that they are striving to do. And what better way to get rid of the meta if you buff weak operators to open up more feasible choices for people to pick so that the meta operator's pick rate goes down and would all balance out over time, at least ideally it would. If all of these operators on this corner of the graph got some kind of a buff to make people want to play them, then there would be less people fiending for Wamai or Doc or Melusi, you know what I mean? And I really can't blame the people who were abusing this Defender ACOG meta for a while there, because just look at how many awful operators are at this corner of the graph. It's kind of ridiculous the amount of operators that are down here. Like, who would want to play Thunderbird or Mozzie or Thorn over any of those operators that I just mentioned? And I'm not saying to make everyone some overpowered freak operator, but there should definitely be some buffs handed out to this part of the graph rather than nerfing the new meta op. I was talking to people in my Discord earlier, which by the way you guys should join with the link in the description if you haven't already, and someone had the perfect phrase for Ubisoft's balancing philosophy. They said it's literally like playing whack-a-mole, which is so true because they really just constantly are nerfing the current meta operator until they're awful, and then a new one comes up and it just keeps going and going and going and going until it's never ending at this point. I really don't think this would be a problem if there were stronger operators in the game across the entire board, and I think that starts with buffing operators like Smoke and Thunderbird on defense or Nook and Sense on offense. Now, because of Ubi's typical philosophy with doing this, I'm positive that Doc's pick rate is going to absolutely skyrocket, considering he's the only strong operator left out of those meta operators that I mentioned with ACOG, and then by next season, Doc probably won't have his ACOG anymore, and Ubisoft will be reconsidering their whole reintroduction of the ACOG since every operator becomes too powerful with one. It's just kind of all over the place right now. Also, on that same note, Ash's pick rate is closing in on 60% on PC and 70% on console, which is absolutely insane. There is no possible way that she has your ACOG by next season either. She really isn't even a strong operator at her core. Like, she's just kind of fine, you know? They can't really nerf her ability, and there's no shot they would ever make her a 2-speed, and her R4C already went through the nerf whack-a-mole, so what does that leave to nerf? Her ACOG, probably, I don't know. But if Ubisoft wants to get rid of this meta, then why aren't they just buffing weak operators to make people want to expand who they play from the typical meta overpowered ones? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And by the way, something I haven't even touched on yet is Melusi now getting 4 Banshees. This is another whack-a-mole type of change that is just weird. You know, I feel like this oversaturation of utility isn't making the game more strategy-minded like how Ubisoft is intending, but rather entirely defeating the purpose in itself. Like, 4 Banshees is so overkill that there's hardly any strategy or thinking that has to go into it. Like, most objectives hardly even have 4 entry points, you know what I mean? But with this oversaturation, I have a feeling that Brava is going to be so unbelievably powerful over the next second half of this season and into next season. Like, right now, she's just so underrated, but, you know, as the defenders are getting more and more utility, it literally just benefits her, you know? So yeah, I have a feeling that Brava is going to be one of the most banned operators of next season. But you know, it's been a weird year or two, I feel like, in terms of balancing operators for Ubisoft. I think I know that nerfs are necessary without a doubt. That's no question, but I think they are leaving a lot of operators for dead in this corner of the graph, which is only skewing the pick rates of the quote unquote meta operators further. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, I know they did buff Echo and Ella, and you know, those are two of those operators that are underplayed and too weak, but I feel like they need to take a couple of seasons here and just spend a whole lot of time on spreading the board out evenly, because I feel like there is a lot of imbalance right now, and doing this whole constant nerfing the best operator in the game style isn't going to be sustainable in the long run, which we already know. We can already see this, and I'm not sure why they haven't figured it out yet. I mean, Siege was never meant to be a meta game, you know? There was never supposed to be a meta in Rainbow Six Siege. It wasn't really supposed to be like your Call of Duty metas, but I mean, here we are, and Ubisoft has been trying to get rid of them. I just don't understand why they aren't just doing exactly what it is in this video that I'm talking about. And I know I'm not saying I'm some expert or anything, but maybe there really is something more to it, you know? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd be happy to talk with you guys more about this. Who specifically do you guys want to see get buffed next? There's obviously a surplus of options you can choose from, so yeah, besides that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.